All right, the Cowboys going all in is a very interesting topic. Of course, Jerry Jones famously said last year he was already all in, and your guess is as good as mine if he understood the question or if he was joking or whatnot. But I'll tell you what, there's two reasons to go all in. About time the Cowboys pick one of them. Let's ride.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys? Yeah!
The popular thing to do is to go all in with money. I think the Eagles have maximized that strategy here in recent years, actually going as far as selling 10% of the equity in their team to get $600 million to, supercharge their team with more players. Surprise, they won the Super Bowl and they made the Chiefs look very, very vulnerable, didn't it? That is called money whipping the league into a championship. We would love it if the Cowboys would do it. I mean, they have an oil empire, concessions, real estate. They have so many revenue streams. They probably net $500 million a year just from running the Cowboys. They have the financial wherewithal to do what Jeffrey Lurie and the Eagles did without even having to sell equity in the team because their cash flow is like that. But you know what the Cowboys like more than cash? More cash. Okay, so what do they do with that money instead of invest it in players? They use it as capital to invest in oil and real estate businesses. And hey, to each his own. If you don't want to do that, and the Joneses have never tried to money whip the league. Yes, there was the Charles Haley and the Deion Sanders, very great additions. I think Deion at the time was the highest paid non-quarterback. It was a massive contract. Jerry was even worried the contract would offend the current players on the team, thinking Deion was getting their next contract. But Jerry assured everybody, no, we're going for a Super Bowl. We got to get this one, and Deion's going to be, our way to do that. So you get one of the best pass rushers in Charles Haley to start the dynasty. You get Deion Sanders to, get that third championship in 4 years. This team knows the importance of going to get all pros, right? And of course, Jerry Jones is business savvy. He knows exactly what the Eagles are doing. He doesn't think it's that sustainable. Maybe there is a downside to what Philadelphia is doing. They're going to essentially have to pay the piper and go through a process, but they're willing to ride that cycle. It's okay if we miss the playoffs for a couple of years. It's okay to be in cap hell, because you know what else we're going to do in cap hell is we're going to draft great players, because we're going to be picking in the top 10, maybe even the top 5. Oh, we need a quarterback because we're, bad. Boom. There's our quarterback there. There's our left tackle. There's our edge. And now we have a clean slate. And more important than a clean slate, you have a damn Super Bowl trophy in your case, and pardon me, right now, they're trying to manage to, be consistently the same amount of good year in and year out. And there is a downside to that. If you're not going all in with your money in any of years out of a decade, you're never going to have a team good enough to take down a Mahomes, to take down a Brady, or to take down the super teams like the Eagles, Buccaneers, Rams have built in recent years to knock off the GOAT quarterback. You better build a super team if you're going to knock off a GOAT quarterback. You kidding me? Cowboys don't want to do it. They just, they got other plans for their money. They figure we got the 3 championships in the 90s, and now we're just kind of living off that glory. I genuinely believe that. If you agree, like the video. If you disagree, dislike the video, and then tell me why in the comments. Yes, I am Gavin Dawson from the G-Bag Nation. Cold beer coming up. I'm a little parched myself. I could use one. Feeling about 12 ounces short here on a Friday night. But anyway, I'm having fun talking Cowboys here with you. So 2 ways to go all in. 2, the Cowboys actually did it. I'd like to introduce you to my friend, the Great Train Robbery, the Herschel Walker trade in 1989. It netted them some great players, including Darren Woodson and Emmitt Smith. And, the Vikings didn't see it coming. Jimmy Johnson did. And at its core, it still happens today. Like C.J. Stroud is from that, same sort of deal for the Houston Texans. Would they get 3 firsts for Deshaun Watson? So it still happens today. And sometimes it's just as dramatic and just as impactful and how it swings. Although, I mean, Herschel Walker kind of birthed a dynasty for the Cowboys, so I don't know if we'll see one quite that big, but it's still very doable, right? But you have to be willing to say, hey, we're trading draft picks now to make us have 2 number 1s next year and 2 number 1s the year after that. And yes, we're not going to be as good right now. We are going to, take that away. You got to risk something to gain something. And in one of these ways of going all in, the Cowboys got to get serious about, trying to get themselves closer to a championship instead of, You know, what I think is just kind of engagement farming, trying to make the playoffs. That worked in late 2000s and early 2010s. Who won one? Aaron Rodgers, right? The Giants actually were they a 6 playing the Cowboys as a 2 in that horrible playoff game in 2007, I believe that was, or 2009. Yeah, they ended up winning the Super Bowl in 2007. So, you know, it used to be possible where you could win championships like this, and it was great. There was this sort of roulette wheel feel to the playoffs, but that's dried up, you know, and the GOATs and the super teams got this thing in a vice grip. So, Jerry, if you don't want to sign the big checks to make it happen, at least be shrewd enough and smart enough to finally deliver what the Cowboys fans deserve. And that's, wow.